As photographers, we get into situations where the scene just doesn't provide us with that appealing factor. And we have to search deep within our creative souls to come out of that situation with something that is aesthetically pleasing to us, that we are confident we could deliver to our clients. I got to a session for one of my surprise proposal clients, and like always, I get there at least an hour ahead of time. I started walking around trying to see what's around that I could utilize for different scenes. And I knew going into it that the location wasn't the best. Now, I live in New Jersey, and a lot of the beach towns in New Jersey have boardwalks. Like, I mean legit boardwalks with arcades and rides and restaurants and bars, and I mean so many different things. But sometimes there are beach towns that they have a boardwalk, but it's literally just like a path. It's just decking. And it's where people run, or they go from the street. It's the transition from street to beach. And in this case, where this was in Spring Lake, New Jersey, that was one of the situations. There was nothing, right? It was just planks. With that said, I knew going into it, I knew exactly where this was going to happen. And I brought up Google Maps, I brought up Google Earth, I did Apple Maps, etc., did street views. There was nothing. The proposal was happening right here where you see my mouse, right? And he wanted to do the proposal right in front of the water. It wasn't decided if it was going to be on this side or this side of the rocks here, but we wound up doing it over here because there was other people over here. But with that said, I didn't know what this building was because I couldn't get a street view of it, couldn't get close enough to it. So I wasn't 100% sure what this was, but turns out that this is just a gazebo. It is only a gazebo. There is nothing else by. There are some benches here along the boardwalk, but there's nothing, right? So I parked over here, and as I was walking towards the path here to get to the gazebo, there's nothing around, right? I couldn't use the hotels. That would be trespassing. I couldn't use all these private properties. That would be trespassing. So I was literally stuck to using whatever was around in the public areas. Now, there was a golf cart parked here that, if you've ever seen Jason Vincent work, you would know that he will utilize a mirror to photograph his client in a way that you wouldn't expect, right? So I was channeling my inner Jason Vincent at the time, and that's actually what I put in my Instagram story that I shared about this, that I recorded before my clients arrived. I was planning on using the golf cart mirror if it was still there after the proposal, and well, my client wasn't up for it. She was done, but you'll see what I mean in a little bit. So what I wound up doing was I hung out in the gazebo here waiting for them to come. My clients turn on, if they have an iPhone, they share my location for 24 hours with me so that I can make sure I know exactly where they are at any given time and get in my spot when I need to be. So I'm very, very prepared. Now, my clients, the proposal was done. There was a lot of stuff going on the beach. There was like volleyball games going on literally right here. There was a bunch of like nice, what looked like natural hills in the sand. So we wind up utilizing the beach way more than I anticipated, because even the beach itself is not that attractive. There's nothing going on. So we literally just did what we could on the beach, right? I got a bunch of photos on the beach, and I got some over here right in front of the rock. So I utilized that, and I did what I needed to do on the beach. Got some photos on the boardwalk over here with the benches and with the water in the background. And then we finished up in the gazebo, and I got my favorite photo in the gazebo. But with that said, and I try to make the inside the gazebo photos way creative with what I was limited to, right? But I knew going into this that my client who hired me said that his now fiance is not a big fan of photo sessions, right? So I said to him, when you know she's done, tell me and we'll call it. No problem. So after we did a bunch of photos, I could tell she was getting a little bit done. She didn't want to go much further, right? I said, there's one more photo I want to do if you're up for it, but you'd have to put your shoes back on because we have to go to the sidewalk. That was the golf cart that I wanted to utilize. She was done. She didn't want to put her shoes on. She wanted to stay on the beach. So we called it there. So I didn't get the golf cart photo, but I do want to show you what I did wind up getting, and you can see what I had to work with and what I wound up doing for this session. So we got the proposal, which I'm not going to, it's a proposal. It is what it is. And then I got some photos of them celebrating together. Then I started posing them and moving them around. So I got some photos with the rocks in the distance. Of course, they're both barefoot because that is what you do on a beach. Typically, not everybody does, but very common. I do the standard, gonna start walking and things like that. So it's very natural. Then I started posing them with the rocks and I had them walk towards each other. And so I got some natural photos of that. And then I do some, so here was where some of the natural hills were. Like they look like speed bumps in the sand. And I utilized that as like a seat on the beach. So I got some of that. And by the way, the haze was perfect that day. It was overcast and hazy. It was so good. So the light was fantastic. Then I have my standard poses that I do. I don't like to pose my clients so much. I'm more of like position and prompt, but there are about 3 or 4 different poses I do for every single proposal client because they love it. So I did those. Then out of the blue, he lifted her up over his shoulder. So of course I had to photograph that. Here's another one of my poses that I do that everybody loves. And then I go into the gazebo and I'm like moving them around and having them hang out and just talk and communicate. And then I found the spot in the gazebo that I really wanted, which was this. Now, what's going on here is I am leaning over the railing here outside of the gazebo, photographing inside the gazebo. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was the Tamron lens. Okay, so this is at 35 on the Tamron lens on the Nikon Z8. I'm basically leaning over, exposing for inside the gazebo where it's more shaded because there's a cover, and not compensating for the outside to give this dramatic change of light. Just enough that you can see there's still the beach there, but it's not obvious. And it's just a fun photo. I didn't even correct for the rust over here. I didn't even want to, but this was my favorite photo. So I didn't have much to work with, but I utilized what I had. I was going to whip out some prisms and reflections and things like that. But again, she wasn't too into a photo session. That's why I told them just talk. I told them don't lose contact, always be touching in some way. The typical things that you would want to have natural going on, right? All natural looks and poses. Even this, where I had her sort of like sit down and put her legs over his legs, very natural. They're just chatting, and every so often they would just kiss themselves. I didn't have to say anything. It just worked out really well. So just goes to show you, right? You can have a boring scene and make something out of it. Between making sure, ensuring that your clients feel comfortable, ensuring that they feel like they could just be themselves without you there, not always posing, but just prompting and guiding your clients along, and making the best out of the scenes that you have at that moment, what you're limited to. Don't think just straight on. Think angles, think high, think low, think reflections, think textures, think different changes in light. You have to visualize. And as part of that, I recommend getting to your location. If you photograph on location, not just in the studio, get to your location way ahead of time and walk, scope it out. Bring a camera, check exposures, see what it is before your clients get there. So that is my advice for you today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.